Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network, brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. We come to you on the Mike Francesa channel, on the Bet Rivers Network, on YouTube. After the final game now of the regular season, we are ready for the playoffs. And I have to admit, like a lot of people tonight, I am very surprised by what we saw. We have watched in recent weeks the Lions look like a shell of themselves ever since the second half of the Thanksgiving game against the Bears. The injuries they sustained, the way they were getting just torn apart. They played a little possum with everybody with what they showed, obviously, in San Francisco, and they came up with a game plan tonight that worked. But I think if you look at this game correctly, this was a game that was far closer than the 31-9 final score. And really, you have to question some of the decision making that Minnesota made. Now, clearly, give Aaron Glenn credit, give the defense credit, give the defensive players. Getting Anzalone back made a big difference. He did a great job in coverage. Robinson did a great job in coverage. They played man-to-man against some terrific guys, but they felt if they could pressure Sam, get him off his spot, make him uncomfortable, that he would be inaccurate. Sam got a case of the bad Sams tonight. He was wild high, and I did not understand what Minnesota was doing down on the goal line early in this game. They did not try to run the ball. They passed up what were absolute certainty must-take field goals in a game that was so important, and they were so stubborn about their approach. It was ridiculous, and it cost them dearly. Now, this game got away from them because Minnesota got tired on defense, and Gibbs put on a show. When you get to a point where that offensive line starts to create some paths with that running back who is as explosive as any player in this league, it's a lethal combination. That's the best offensive line there is. It's a dominant offensive line, and Gibbs took over the game and turned what should have been nice gains into killer dagger touchdowns. And he did it 4 times. They were all impressive. What a game for him. I mean, he had 30. He took one of the worst hits I've ever seen in the second quarter. I mean, just a brutal hit. I really wondered about him there, but he put on just an incredible show tonight. To me, he is one of the real big stars offensively in this league. 23 carries for 139 yards and 3 touchdowns, and a touchdown, receiving 4 touchdowns in this game tonight. 170 yards from scrimmage in this kind of, what is really in essence a playoff game, and just a tremendous performance. Give them credit for being able to pressure Sam, and they did, and they got him off his mark. And Sam on the move was awful, and Sam, as we told you, would hold the ball, and Sam got a case of he had control problems. He was a power pitcher with control problems tonight. He was wild high all night. He went up the ladder on Jefferson. He couldn't connect with Jefferson. Jefferson was targeted 9 times and caught 3 balls. He got very frustrated. Star wide receivers have a habit of getting frustrated in big games when they don't have things go their way. That is often a negative, and it puts pressure on the quarterback to feed him the ball. And let's be honest, Sam tried to feed the ball to Jefferson. He tried to get the ball to his big guys, but he couldn't make the big play with them tonight. He just couldn't get it done. And a lot of it was because of the pressure they put on. I mean, Jefferson hit one play that was decent. Naylor hit 2 plays, an 18-yarder and a 27-yarder. Nothing at Addison, who didn't even catch a pass. He got targeted 6 times, has been a lethal receiver and didn't catch a pass tonight. And he was 18 of 41 for 166 yards. Got sacked a couple of times. Luckily, didn't throw any picks, but was wild, was bouncing the ball on the turf, was wild wide, was wild high, and just was under duress all night and did not look like the quarterback who has had the season he's had this year. Early in the game, you heard them say, the Lions said if we hit and pressure Donald, he will have a tough time. He had a nightmare tonight, but his coaching staff and some circumstances, I don't know if Jones was hurt tonight. He didn't come out of the locker room. They said there was no injury designation, but he didn't come out of the locker room with the rest of the team. He missed the start of the third quarter. He was out of the game a lot in the fourth quarter. I don't know what was going on with him this evening. Akers had the one big run when he was out, but again, they got down there running the ball, and then they didn't try to run the ball. They ran it once and threw it again. They went away from what they should have done on the goal line, because when you're down there on the goal line, if you don't make the running game a threat, it's very hard to pass the ball into the end zone. Even when you're this kind of passing team. And Minnesota has lived on the plus 20 reception all year. They have had so many big plays in their passing game. They did not have a lot of them tonight. They could not handle third down and fourth down. At one point, they were 3 for 15 on third and fourth down. Their red zone stuff was abominable, but give the Lions credit for coming up with a game plan, for being unbelievably aggressive. And listen, we know this now about the Lions, and this was a very, very big win for them. It was a big win for their psyche. The one thing you worry about tonight is they had another lineman, a corner, and an offensive lineman taken off the field in the second half. They can't afford any more injuries. Now, they do get a week off. They get the bye. They get the week off while Minnesota has to go play the Rams on Monday night. I'll get to all the playoff games in a minute. And when and how and where. But Minnesota has to regroup. Sam has had such a positive season. The Vikings have had such a positive season. I know I told you before the game, and I've told you all year, I didn't believe in the Vikings. I didn't. But I have to tell you, I did not think the Lions would be successful doing what they did tonight. I didn't think they'd be able to handle it the way they did. I did not think they'd be able to put the quality of pressure that they put on Sam tonight continually. And I thought they missed opportunities running the ball, and I thought they made big mistakes with decisions in the red zone early in that game, and that let this game get away from them. When I looked at one point, they were still leading the yardage, even though they were down in the game. And then it got away from them late because Gibbs made a couple of big plays, and then they made a couple of other big plays in their offense. And all of a sudden, they wound up with 390 yards, and I think the Vikings wound up with about 300 yards. So it got a little away from them late. But the bottom line is this was a closer game, but they wound up 3 for 16 on third and fourth down. You can't win that way. You can't win that way. And let's be honest, they turned the ball over, the Lions did, inside their 5-yard line and didn't give up a touchdown. They then turned the ball over again, but that time they at least got the ball out to about the 40-yard line, for the 2 interceptions that he threw. Bottom line is the Lions did a very good job. They were very aggressive. They got a great performance from Gibbs. They got a tremendous lift from having Anzalone back, and give Aaron Glenn credit for a very, very aggressive and very successful game plan that worked wonders tonight. Minnesota's got to really regroup. This will be a tough blow for them. This will be a real knock to Sam because he's going to get abused this week. It's going to be like, oh, we told you he'd crumble in the big spot, blah, blah, blah. So the Sam detractors who have not been there through all 14 wins this year, have not been there through all the touchdown passes and all the big games this year, They are going to attack right now. Sam has to just make sure he doesn't hear any of that. He has to just go about his business and realize he can build this right back with a win on the road next week against the Rams, but it won't be easy. It will not be easy. The Rams will not be an easy out in their building with the two things that they have going for them. Well, really three. One, their coaching. And obviously, the Minnesota coach comes from the same group. Two, they have tremendous skill position people who will play really well. Three, they have a defensive front that has grown up this season and become very, very good. That will be a big key to the game because pressuring Sam will now be the order of the day, and they will look to do the same thing and be very physical and very aggressive. This was a physical game tonight. I mean, both ways, both ways. The shot that was put on Gibbs was one of the worst hits I've seen a player take in years. And look at the game he had after that. Gibbs is a tough guy. He's not a big man, and he's a brilliantly, a gifted speedster. But he did a great job on blitz pickup, and he caught that ball and didn't turn it over when he got tattooed for an 8-yard loss. I mean, one of the worst hits I've seen all year. And he shook it off. Give him a world of credit for that. And the Lions showed you what they're made of tonight. Kudos to their coaching staff. Kudos to their players. They earn this. They earn a chance now. But this defense has got to get healthier because obviously the next team will not get caught by what they did here tonight. The Vikings got caught tonight by what the Lions did. The next team won't get caught by it. And it might not be the right way to attack their next opponent. Let's wait and see who that is when they play in 2 weeks. But they earned their top spot. They earned their week off. It's the first time the Lions have ever been a 1 seed. Kudos to them. They win their 15th game. They win their division title. Congratulations to them. Do I think Minnesota is a championship team? I do not. But they are capable of going out and beating the Rams. But they got a lot of work to do, and the coaching staff has a lot of work to do on working on Sam's psyche this week because it's going to take a hit. I don't think there's any question about that. Now, the playoffs are set. Remember, tomorrow's Black Monday. In the afternoon, we'll do a show based on all the changes, all the rumors, all the firings, which are going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow's a day, if you're an NFL fan, you pay close attention all day because they're going to come fast and furious starting at 10 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning. Bing, 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 one right after another. That's what happens on Black Monday. That's why they call it Black Monday. Here we go. Now, wild card weekend. Chargers, who won today to stay away from the Ravens and stay away from a brother-brother matchup. 11 wins for Harbaugh in his first year. They get the Texans just to show you. I've told you week after week, I don't like the Texans. I don't think they're going to win a playoff game. They are underdog at home by 3 points to start the playoffs, 4:30 next Saturday. Saturday night is your game that if you don't have any streaming subscriptions, you are an unhappy person because the game's on Prime, which is Amazon. That's the one. This is the greed game. This is the greedy reach by the NFL where they make you buy a subscription to get the game. And that game is the Steelers and the Ravens. Steelers come in. Now, this is a great rivalry. They've always done well against the Ravens, kept the games close. I don't think they didn't recently, and I don't think they will this time. They've lost 4 games in a row. I don't think they're any match for the Ravens right now. The Ravens are 9-point favorites. 9 points, and I bet you it goes up. Sunday, triple header. We start with the Broncos 38-0 winners today over Kansas City to earn their way in. Sean Payton takes over a franchise that was completely dormant. Hadn't been to the playoffs in a decade. What does he do? He drafts a franchise quarterback, and in his second year, he takes the Broncos to 10 wins and to the playoffs. You know what that is? Coaching. That's what it is. You know how it's coaching? Here's why. There is not anything that correlates between the offense that he ran in New Orleans with Drew Brees and the offense he runs now for the Knicks. That's coaching. Bills, heavy favorites, as you would expect. A lot of people think this is their year. They will start at home against Denver next Sunday at 1. 8.5-point favorites for Josh Allen and crew. The Sunday 4:30 game. I could have told you from a TV standpoint. I told someone else, I didn't mention it on the show earlier today. Maybe I did. I said this Packers Eagles jumps out at you. It's going to be the Sunday 4:30 game. I knew it from the minute I saw the matchups. This game is a classic. It's an absolute. The Eagles are really good, but you know what? The Packers are really dangerous. The Eagles opened as a 3.5-point favorite. They've now gone to a 4.5-point favorite tonight. So the early money is on the Eagles. They won 14 games this year. The Packers lost today. They won 11 games. They are an extremely dangerous team with a quarterback and a running back that can play at the top level. The Packers can do all the things that you need to do to win in the playoffs. They can come from behind on the arm of their quarterback. They can put fourth quarter pressure from a pass rush standpoint on the opposing team. And they now can play the 4-minute game, which is something you have to do if you're going to win big in the playoffs. And that is with a lead, you've got to be able to move the chains and run the football. They can do that behind Jacobs. This is a big-time game. Big-time game. And do not sell the Packers short. They are legitimate in this game. Eagles are terrific. So the Packers are very dangerous. And then the Sunday night game, Commanders, Bucks. Bucks a 3-point favorite. Daniels on display. Baker Mayfield on display. Evans. I mean, go down the line. Irving. All the people that you have in this game. Looks like a game that will be decided by probably which team has the ball last. It's one of those kind of games. You expect offense in this game. That's the 8:15 game Sunday. And then the Rams, Minnesota. And because of their 14 wins, the Rams have been installed as a 2.5-point favorite the Vikings have been installed as a 2.5-point favorite over the Rams in LA. This is going to be the Vikings they've had a great year. They had a rough outing tonight. But this is going to be a tough matchup. This is going to be a tough game to win. It's not going to be easy. I think it's a very much a wide open, very, very balanced, even game. If the Rams are on the road and the game was in Minnesota, I would love Minnesota. Rams are a different team at home. You're going to have great conditions. You're going to be on a fast track. It's going to help both teams. Obviously, there's a lot that both teams can do offensively. Big time game, the Vikings and the Rams. So, 2 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday, and then the Monday night game, 8:15 in LA, the Vikings and the Rams. The Chiefs sit and wait as the 1 seed in the AFC, and now the Lions, for the first time in their history, since we've gone to the seeding. Remember, the Lions haven't been powerful since the 50s. It has been a long, long time coming. they will be an incredible sentimental choice throughout the NFL and throughout the country. Their coach, people like him, but their story for their fans, for the franchise, is a great one. And no one, I don't think, who has a heart and likes football could not like or root for the Lions to have a big year in the playoffs. It's been a long, long time coming. So you have Kansas City, which has become a fixture in this spot as a Super Bowl favorite, as a 1 seed, and now the Lions in this role off their big performance tonight. And this will, listen, owners react. People who hire coaches react. Aaron Glenn just upped his phone calls for interviews that he will receive by about 100% based on today's and tonight's performance. This was a big game for Aaron Glenn. It's harder now to get a job as a defensive coordinator. Not impossible, it's harder. These guys are looking for quarterback makers. They're looking for young offensive minds. Those are the guys that everyone wants. They all want this year's model, which is Ben Johnson. Okay. The bottom line is Glenn now will be a much hotter property than you thought. And if you weren't with us earlier today, Mayo's already been gone, which means the Pats made that move quickly so they can move quickly on Vrabel. Vrabel wants to go to New England. He met with the Jets to force the Pats' hand. There's no question about that. The word everywhere is Vrabel will be in New England after they have to go through whatever it is, whether it is, interview candidates, which they have to do, or whatever protocol they have to go through. And there's a lot of talk that Josh McDaniel will rejoin him as offensive coordinator. So we'll see what happens as far as that's concerned. But expect Vrabel to go back home to Foxborough to take over the Pats, who felt that Mayo was very much overmatched this year. And if you watch them, he was. You got to listen. When you see a coach in his first go round as a head coach and he can't handle, Raheem Morris was exposed this year dramatically. He was awful. But we know he has promise as a coach, so no one's going to they're not going to throw the talent on Raheem Morris right now. But they threw the talent on Mayo. And when you see someone who's just inept at the job, I hate to say it, but like the Jets interim coach was, you just throw the talent. That's all there is to it. You realize they're not candidates. And I know that Bob Kraft really wanted to be fair to Mayo and thought about giving him a year while everyone else, and he was obviously the voice that carries the most weight. And then he was convinced we're not going to pass up on Vrabel. So look for Vrabel in New England, and that means the Jet job is wide open right now. I still expect someone I trust told me today that they expect that when the smoke clears that the Giants will keep their general manager and the head coach as long as the head coach agrees to certain stipulations. I don't know what those are. It could be protocol, it could be play calling, it could be staff, it could be composition of staff. I don't know what it is, but as long as he says yes to what they feel is necessary, that he'll be back. Now let's see if that's true. Because you know what? Sometimes you go into a meeting and we saw this, let's say as an example with the Rangers and Tortorella that time when I, happened to be on the phone with someone from the Rangers, and Tortorella went in for an organizational meeting with no idea that he was going to leave. They asked him to switch an assistant coach. He said no. He put his feet down. He got mad. Next thing you know, he was fired. Those things happen sometimes. They happen. I think David really wants another chance. And all along I felt that John Mara, and remember, John Mara and Tish are co-owners, but John is the voice and really the power behind the football decisions, just like Tish would carry more weight in the financial ones. So it's John that I think has been reluctant to make another change. I think a couple of reasons. One, I think he probably still thinks he sees something good in Dable, despite the fact the last 2 years have been an abomination. So I think that he will. I think that he will wind up staying. It's what I feel this evening. I don't know. I don't have any any certainty at all. But I'm telling you what someone told me that I trust, who has a pretty good feel for the thing, and they felt that while they wouldn't call it 100%, they thought very strongly that they were going to wind up staying. They both were going to wind up staying, not one but both. So let's see how that plays out. So the playoffs are here, and I come away after tonight's game. One, very surprised by the Lion defensive performance because the last 4 weeks, and I've watched every one of those Lion games, they have been just awful defensively. They have been inept. Angelo made a difference. Their style tonight really put pressure on Sam, and it built throughout the game. Vikings moved the ball and made big plays and got down in that red zone early, but they just didn't cash in. And they couldn't get the ball to 18. 18, okay, is obviously a force. Jefferson and Addison have had huge years for the Vikings. Tonight, when you add in those two, Jefferson, Hawkinson, who's their wonderful tight end, and Addison, tonight they were targeted. The three of them were targeted 23 times. Out of those 23 targets, they caught 6 passes for 63 yards. Wow. You won't see numbers like that ever. Those are stunning. 23 targets, 6 catches. That's your 2 big wide receivers and your premier tight end. 6 out of 23. Give the Lions a lot of credit. They pressured the quarterback. He came up very inaccurate tonight. He was very wild high. And their coverage, Anzalone on the tight end, Robertson on Jefferson, superb. You got to give him credit. Very, very impressive man-to-man. Hard to play, hard to do. And it starts by putting pressure on the quarterback, and they did. And it just got bigger and better as the game went on and more overpowering. The Lions credit. Hey, we were wondering exactly where they were. They showed you tonight they mean business. Now they get a chance to get some rest. And they get to take a big step. That bye, when you're playing in a tournament, and every game is tough, getting a bye and getting to play at home is a big step towards getting to the big game. February 9th in New Orleans. Yes, New Orleans. With everything that's gone on there, that's where the game is this year. Busy week coming up. We'll talk to you tomorrow.